All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to No Proof Strong Start, our non-alc programming brought to you by Portland Cocktail Week. No Proof Strong Start will take place every Monday in January at 2 p.m. Eastern here on the Portland Cocktail Week channel, where you can join us live or at your leisure, either on Facebook or on YouTube. Each week, we will be bringing you leaders in the non-alc spirits world to help bridge the gap between bar and guest when it comes to zero proof serves. As always, I am your host today, Shannon Michelle, bartender, non-alc consultant, and every once in a while, Guy Fieri. Today, we are happy to be hosting Camille Vidal, the founder of La Maison Wellness, and Aaron Winch, marketing manager of Back Bar Project, for our discussion of the new age of non-alcoholic cocktails with Giffard Non-Alcoholic Liqueurs. Camille and Aaron are joining me today for another installment of our No Proof Strong Start series. We'll be exploring how curating a thoughtful no-proof menu contributes to the overall success of your bar program, and products that can help you create spirit-free cocktails that impress your guests, whether they're foregoing booze for one night or just for the whole thing. In this class, you'll learn how to use different Giffard non-alcoholic liqueurs to curate a sophisticated bar program by adding creativity and viscosity to NA cocktails. Bookmark this video and grab a notebook, because there are 3 Giffard gift bags up for grab for the folks who score the highest on the quiz. You've got until Wednesday, January 24th to submit your answers at lushLifeProductions.com/Giffard for a chance to win a box full of no-proof surprises from our pals at Giffard. But first, there are 4 things we ask fans of this content to do, and that is like us on Facebook, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram. Also, please comment below and ask questions. I'll be able to take some time in between our presentation to mention those, and we'll also take some time at the end for Q&A. For now, let's welcome Camille and Aaron. Thank you guys so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I know everybody is excited for this class. I am super excited for this class. I've been big fans of yours for a long, long time. So the fact that Giffard now has non-alcoholic liqueurs is just like fantastic for the bar community.
Game changer for sure.
Yeah.
Very exciting to have them over here in the States too. I know the overseas team has seen them a little bit, so very excited for them.
The buzz here is high. Well, would you like to go ahead and get started on this lovely presentation we've got for everyone?
Yeah, amazing. So
Awesome.
I think I'm going to start with giving more of an overview of what is the mindful drinking movement, and then we will dive a bit more into discovering this really exciting new range of alcohol-free liqueur from Giffard, and then talking a bit more of like what can it look like in the bar. Shannon, you introduced me a little bit already, but I am Camille Vidal. I have been in the industry for over 15 years, and 7 years ago, I decided to go onto my journey, launch La Maison Wellness, which is a platform dedicated to inspire people to drink more mindfully and to really focus on the no and low category and to become an advocate for no and low cocktail. 7 years ago, it was a bit sad. There was not that many brands. There was very little brands and very little people, and it's been amazing to witness how the movement has grown all around the world and how many more people are really joining in this category and this movement and pushing it forward. So really excited to be here. I'm actually based in London, but I have the chance to travel around the world, and I'm currently in California, which is very, very nice and definitely warmer than London at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so excited to share. A lot of what I'm going to be sharing is US focus, but I'm also going to be sharing a little bit about what is happening in other countries, just to have a global view on the movement and the category.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about mindful drinking. Mindful drinking is a word that I feel like we hear a lot at the moment. And I think for a while, when we were referring to mindful drinking, a lot of people were just assuming that if you're a mindful drinker, that means that you're sober. And I really, really like to start always by kind of giving a little bit of a definition of what is mindful drinking to show how open it is and how personal it is. For me, mindful drinking isn't about just drinking alcohol or not drinking alcohol. It's about becoming aware of our drinking habits and changing it for the better. And for some people, that means sobriety, and that's the balance that is better for them. And for some people, that means moderation. And if we look at the next slides, it's really interesting to look at the numbers of who are sobers and who are moderating. And if you look at the sober numbers, there's 30% of the population in America that is not drinking alcohol. That's 20% of people in the UK, 20% of people in France, 29% of Australian. And I think that for a long time, as someone who's been in the industry for so long, we kind of neglected this amount of people. If we look at like the US, 30% of the population, that's a pretty big number of people that do not drink alcohol whatsoever for whatever reason. And we won't be diving into all the different reasons. But I think that as someone who, is so passionate about hospitality and working in the industry, we need to bring this back into the conversation and understand that through hospitality is being able to look after every single guest that comes through the door into your venue. And that might be 30% of the population that do not drink alcohol, that is probably at the moment not feeling as welcome, or that, have as many options in bars as it should be. I also think that moderator is a really, really exciting part of what's happening in the world. Because if you look at those numbers, it says from all the research that we've been looking into, that more than half of the population in the UK and in the US, because that's the two studies that I've been looking into, are stated that they want to reduce their alcohol consumption. They want to change the way that they drink, either by cutting out alcohol or reducing their alcohol consumption. And that really shows that there is a really big shift happening all around the world where people want to drink differently. And that shows that the movement isn't a trend or a fad, as maybe at some point we were thinking, but really a shift in lifestyle and in the way of celebrating and consuming alcohol.
Yeah, 100%. I think I notice it a lot here when I go out with my friends, because I personally am sober, but most of my friends are not. But now when we go out, I don't see them drinking as much as they used to. And they are taking those breaks and grabbing for an NA beer or an NA cocktail if that's available on the menu in between full proof cocktails. And that is something that I think is really important to touch on. I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm the most exciting about. When I launched La Maison Wellness, I wasn't on a mission to turn everyone to become sober, even though this is the balance that I found for myself. I wanted people to feel comfortable knowing that there is an option, and comfortable in finding the balance that works for themselves. And I really think that the movement is growing for different reasons. Because there's more and more amazing products that are being launched. There's more venues that have options available on their menu. And there's more people talking about the fact that it's okay to go out and not drink alcohol, that you can still have a good time. And I think that triple effect is really why that movement is growing and getting this snowball effect. And I just think that it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if we look at the next slide, I just pulled some of the numbers that I think are really exciting and inspiring for the category in the US. So 30% of the population report abstaining, as we were saying. But what's also really interesting is 20%. So if we look at the average number of alcoholic beverages consumed in the week since 2015, this number has been reduced by 20%. And that's a really big, number to look into. We were saying that half of the population wants to change their alcohol consumption. They want to drink less alcohol. And that's 52% of Americans. That number, I think, is really interesting because it shows that 64% of non-alcoholic beverage are actually consumed at home. And some people might think that's because, people, when they're at home, they don't really want to drink alcohol, or that's because that might be what they're drinking on the Monday and a Tuesday. And then when they go out over the weekend, they drink alcohol. I think that there's a part of that is absolutely true. But I also believe that people drink non-alcoholic option at home because they, have the option, because they buy the option. And I think that the lack of option for no and low in venues is one of the reasons why people don't drink it. I also think that that's where they feel comfortable, because it's not always a supportive environment to drink non-alcoholic option in bars and restaurants. It's not always, celebrated by the team as it should be. And I think that 60% I really want to see a shift in this. And I think that as, with people like you, Shannon, who are really like a consultant and an advocate for the category, people like me that are also doing that, we can really help venues to be more supportive of the mindful drinkers, be more knowledgeable, and provide better options so people feel comfortable going to venues to drink alcohol-free option, knowing that they will have something that is delicious and that is a great value for it. And then, we look at and we're not going to dive into who are the mindful drinkers in terms of like age, et cetera, but I think it's inspiring to see that actually Gen Z consumer are drinking less than any other generation, with 25% reporting drinking zero alcohol whatsoever. And so we see that that means that it's really growing and evolving, and the future generation are more conscious in the way that they consume alcohol and want to drink less alcohol, which means that they still want to go out, they still want to celebrate, but they want alternative and better option. And then 58% of consumer report drinking alcohol and NA on the same occasion. And again, you were just touching base on this, Shannon. I think that's important to understand that it's not just like an all in or all out. It's not just like you drink or you not drink. There's something called switching, which is something that I think it's also amazing, where people will start the evening with a non-alcoholic option because they're thirsty, they want to, have time to have a look at the menu, they want to start with something that is like light and refreshing, or some people, end their evening with something that is non-alcoholic, because we've all been there, that one too many nightcap that then put you over, and the day after you feel a little bit too much, and so I think that the more we educate and we inspire the guest and the consumer on understanding what is ABV, understanding the options available, and helping them to design their night. It's like, do you choose your own adventure? Like, what do you want to start with? How do you want to manage it? Do you have a big day the day after and you actually want to go alcohol free the entire evening, or you want to switch in and out? And I think that's also very interesting to have that in mind when you design menus. And we see, for example, there's a venue in the UK that has organized their menu by ABV, and so on every single cocktail you have the ABV started with like non-alcoholic, low alcohol, like fuller strength alcohol. And I think that we really have, as industry professional, we have a role to play in educating the consumer and helping the consumer understand how to navigate this and to really be able to choose the best night for themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
And then one number that I find so exciting and really inspiring is the fact that the NA sales are up 31% in the US this year. And that really, again, shows that there is a growth, there is a need, there is a demand, there is an opportunity. I always hear oh, but this is just a dry January play, and we're here talking about this amazing category in January. But actually in the UK last year, there was more non-alcoholic products sold in June that it was in January. And that again really shows that, it was the summer. The UK is known for going big in the summer with barbecues and going out and celebrating. And actually people wanted to moderate. They wanted to be more conscious. They wanted to be more mindful. And so we're really out of this just dry January play, even though there's a huge opportunity to help and support your guests and consumer through that month as they choose to do this challenge or not. But this is really something that roll out throughout the year, something that is a lifestyle, a movement, and happening all over. And awesome. If we move on to our next slide, we see that the category, as I was saying, when I started and when I launched La Maison Mondes in 2017, it was lonely and small. Sidlip had just launched in 2015 out of Ben's garage when he was making Sidlip by himself, and it was a small category. It was it was a big shift, and it was growing. Now we see that the no and low alcohol category value surpasses 11 billion in 2022. And the growth that is forecast by 2031 is just huge. We're looking at 624 billion. That's just not something that you can neglect and not take in consideration. And I think that and I'm sure that you feel exactly the same way, Shannon, and Erin, you're welcoming this amazing new category into your portfolio. Is we've seen the category grow, drastically. And even just last year, there was 72 new SKUs, new product that were launched outside of the beer and the wine category. And that just shows how diverse is the category, how many alternatives, how many products, and not just alternative, because even though I use this word, I'm one that who says that we need to stop looking at this product just as an alternative. Some are just amazing, standalone, delicious, spirits that you can even use in your alcoholic cocktail to reduce the ABV. You can use on its own as an alcohol-free option, not just as an alternative to an alcoholic cocktail, but just because they're delicious. And so I always really encourage people to dive into the category and to look at the analogs, so the alternative to the spirits, but also the really different products, the functional ingredients, the ones that you can't really fit in a category. I'm lucky to be judged on a lot of different alcohol-free awards around the world, and I get to taste so many products. And seriously, one of the most challenging things as a judge to do is to categorize the non-alc, because you're like, okay, non-alcoholic tequila, non-alcoholic rum, non-alcoholic whiskey, but then it becomes a bit muddy when you're like, but where do you put this product and when do you put? But I think that's the most exciting part of the category, and where there is so much growth. And when we're going to be talking about the alcohol-free liqueur that Giffard are bringing to the market, that's something that is completely new. We didn't have a modifier, and that's something that is so excited to see enter the category to really elevate the opportunity and the level of the non-alcoholic cocktail that we can create now.
Yeah, the growth in the NA category really makes it feel like the new frontier in bartending. And that is something that is so exciting. I think just as a creative individual and as someone who drinks these products, but it's just, I haven't seen a boom like this, I feel since the bourbon boom when I started bartending in 2008, it's so crazy. And it's such a wonderful thing to also be a part of, because again, I stopped drinking in 2019, and even then it was very, very minimum. Heineken 00 had just gotten to the States, and that was the highest thing that I could find that was as close to a foolproof product. So this is all this information I think is really going to surprise people.
Yeah. And you and I, we have a real a connection with the category because we decided to go on that journey to change our drinking habit. But for all of you watching today, I really want you to understand that you don't have to be sober or a mindful drinker to support this category, because as Shannon was just saying, actually this is the most creative, new, innovative category of the drinks spirits. There's so many new products coming in, there's so much education that needs to be done, there's so much inspiration. And so I think that every bartender should be really excited to be at the forefront of this and really want to be part of changing the way that we celebrate and we drink, and the offer that we provide all around the world that is shifting, and we get to be part of this shift, which is incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say that even if you aren't a sober, I still drink alcohol, but there are times where I do want to have a non-alcoholic cocktail, or maybe make something that is not as foolproof as a traditional cocktail that I would opt for. So having these non-alcoholic spirits and these non-alcoholic now liqueurs that are coming out is really exciting because it gives us that opportunity.
Absolutely. Amazing.
And we've got some really awesome questions coming through. I just want to make sure that we tell everyone that we're not forgetting about you. We will absolutely be answering these amazing questions when we get towards the end. I'm saving all of them as they come up.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All right.
Yes, Tiffany, ask more questions.
Yes, more questions.
Well, with that, so talking about how we are impacting, or how the non-alcoholic liqueur space is changing, we've now launched the Giffard Non-Alcoholic Liqueurs. So this is a new line of non-alcoholic liqueurs from the Giffard family. You guys, if you're fans of the Giffard family, we are going you probably know our long line of liqueurs that we have. We have the specialty range, the premium range, and then our signature Monk Pastille, along with our syrups, which are already 0% alcohol. But what I wanted to highlight is that these non-alcoholic liqueurs really do improve a cocktail because they're adding viscosity, a lot of depth, and then a lot of robust flavors to traditional cocktails. So they do differ from the syrups in that there is not as much sugar utilized in them. And if you look at the alcoholic counterparts, our Giffard Pamplemousse, which is one of our highest selling SKUs, our ginger of the Indies, our Caribbean pineapple, all of these non-alcoholic liqueurs are kind of going neck and neck with those traditional SKUs, but a non-alcoholic version, which is really exciting. And then the reason this is really exciting is we just are really excited about giving our customers the opportunities to still utilize those flavors that they're used to in all these cocktails beautiful cocktails that they've already created, but being able to create non-alcoholic versions of these cocktails using some of the NA spirits that you might already have on your back bar, like Seedlip or any of the Rituals, any of these non-alcoholic liqueurs that are already out there.
Yeah, and I think Giffard is like one of those brands that stands out to a bartender as well because of the wide range of products that you just create overall. And like, I know just personally that like whenever a new Giffard like SKU gets released, even just in the regular market, everybody is like clamoring to get behind it. So like the fact that there are now NA products that we can kind of like paint with and like, really get in there with, like, I have not heard like this much buzz about a product in a very, very long time. So I just want to reiterate that to let you know like how happy we are to have you here.
Yeah.
I feel like this is giving us so many options to, and I think you used the word paint. Like if you take the analogy of like bartenders being artists, you're just giving us a whole new palette to play with, and one that like you can connect with everything else that it's in the category. And I think that's why for me, what was missing in the category, it was the modifier, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the production method and how the product is made. But this is not a syrup, as you said, less sugar. Like all of them have 3 times less sugar than a syrup would have. So in terms of like, versatility and how you can use it, it's so different. And then it's not a shrub because again, we'll talk about the production, but the vinegar, the nose and the palate is being removed. And like, as much as like I love shrub, but that can be really intense and powerful and sometimes overtaking the flavor in your cocktail because this is removed, you have this amazing robust flavor, this wonderful acidity. This is just the most versatile ingredients that really allow to connect the dots and make the full picture of your cocktail.
Yeah. And thank you, Camille. That brings me to the next slide as well. So great our segue into that. So the Giffard non-alcoholic liqueurs are really different from the syrups. They're actually made at 2 different facilities. So our Giffard makes the syrups in one facility, and then we actually make the Giffard non-alcoholic liqueurs in the same facility that the full alcoholic liqueur line is made in. And they're really made in a very similar way to our alcoholic liqueurs that everybody knows and loves. So we start off with the Giffard team uses a French white wine vinegar as the base. So usually we use a distillate as our base that we then macerate the fruit in. This time we take the fruits and the plants and we're macerating them in a French white wine vinegar. And then in the step 2 of the process, those vinegar notes that you would usually associate with like a shrub or something like that are actually removed. So what you get is this non-alcoholic liqueur with this white wine vinegar base, but really with all those vinegar notes, that acidity, our strong acidity removed from it. So you get a much more aromatic product, something that is much more balanced than a straight vinegar would be. And it really gives you a round mouthfeel to these cocktails. It creates a lot of balance to these cocktails.
Mm. And I'm sure that like Shannon is the same for you. It's like it's so exciting also to have a non-alcoholic product that can be really open and sharing about the process of how the product is made. A lot of those products are delicious, but they don't always share, or it's not made in the same way of like different spirits. When you're actually using the exact same maceration process that you do with your liqueur. It's the same knowledge, the same savoir-faire, the same ingredients, the same quality of the ingredients, the same natural ingredients. But instead of using alcohol, you use vinegar, which we know that vinegar after alcohol is the best way to extract flavor. And I think because of like that maceration, it's just a whole different level in terms of flavor. And because the vinegar, the notes are removed, but you still, and you tasted it, Shannon, as well. And I would love to hear your take on this. But like you have a really beautiful acidity that actually helps you to create that amazing backbone for your cocktail. Because when you have a non-alcoholic cocktail, you don't have the alcohol to create that backbone. You don't have that structure. And so we always, searching for things that we can do to create that structure. And often I use vinegar in my cocktail, or I use salt, or I use, different botanicals, different ingredients. And with that, that range of alcohol-free liqueur, you have it in a bottle. You have the consistency, the quality, the bright flavor of this amazing fruit that stand out so differently that it will do in a syrup or in a shrub. You have that acidity, but it's not overpowering like a shrub will do. And for me, I just find them the most amazing things to use in cocktail, really.
Yeah, this like really solves a problem in that creative process, because a lot of the times when people get stuck on making a non-alcoholic drink, it's because you lose your backbone, you lose your body, you lose all of that when you take away the main spirit. And people think that they can just, add stuff back in one for one, and it creates the same thing. And, they get discouraged because it's like, well, why isn't this like, it doesn't have the same mouthfeel that I want. This process with the vinegar, like really takes care of that and adds that element back into the cocktail, at least like from what I was finding when I was making some drinks with them. And it really just like, it plays really well to the needs of this category. It fills a hole, and that's like what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for all of you that like have a bar and do a lot of like prep yourself and make your own like syrups and things like that, I think what I love also about this product is two things. A is the consistency, and the fact that like, I was talking with the bar manager of the Edition Hotel in the UK, and they were making this like pineapple shrub, but in the UK pineapple isn't that great. Let's be honest, or not that consistent, not always that sweet or that beautiful. And so they were really struggling to have consistency of the product. And then they tasted the pineapple, the Giffard, and they were like, this is amazing. This is exactly what we've been trying to do, but we couldn't really find the balance. So that's something that is exciting about the consistency of being able to have a product and, direct out of the bottle that is so beautiful. And then for me, it's the life shelf, like that product, when you open the bottle, in the no and low category, we have to be more mindful of how we preserve spirits, liqueurs, wine, and all of that. Because again, you don't have the alcohol, which is an amazing way to preserve the ingredients. And so often non-alcoholic spirits, you have to use it a bit faster. You have some of the aperitif, you have to keep them in the fridge, all of that. When this product, it's so amazing. And Erin, remind us, do you remember the life shelf? I think it's 18 months.
Yeah, it should be 18 months. And it is still, I believe it's still recommended to have them refrigerated after opening, but it's about 18 months that they have a shelf.
Which is really, really amazing.
That's incredible.
Product. Yeah, especially in the no and low category.
We'll talk about some of the flavors that we now have for these non-alcoholic liqueurs. So as we mentioned before, we have our Giffard Pamplemousse, which is one of our top-selling liqueurs from our specialty range. To have a non-alcoholic version of that, we will have our Giffard Grapefruit Non-Alcoholic Liqueur. We also have the Giffard Pineapple Non-Alcoholic Liqueur. And then in addition to these two, we will have the Giffard Ginger Non-Alcoholic Liqueur and our Elderflower Non-Alcoholic Liqueur. So to start off with, we're going to have those 4 SKUs. It's very exciting. Gives a lot of versatility. We have the 2 fruit SKUs, 2 SKUs that are a little bit more like flower, spice focused. So lots of versatility there with these new non-alcoholic liqueurs.
That's
I
awesome.
wish everyone could taste it. You know, we're like sharing all these delicious things, and Shannon, you had the opportunity to try it, and
I
did
am
too,
more
so
than lucky. More than
I wish we
lucky.
could share it with you all. I wish we could do a tasting right now because they are really, really beautiful for sure.
I actually got even luckier because my first package that got delivered, one of the bottles broke, and then I was lucky enough to have another package sent to me. So I have so many bottles of Giffard like NA at my house. It is like very exciting to me because like we often entertain, and I love to make punches, and these are like the perfect thing for that. And I just love introducing people to like new things that are available to them. So like I'm blessed beyond belief in non-alcoholics right now. It feels really good.
And don't worry, for everybody tuning in, we will let you know where you can get these. So that is coming up later in the presentation. So if you're wanting them. But yeah, we've actually had a beautiful cocktail made by Shannon as well. So Shannon, I don't know if you want to talk about this cocktail that you created.
Yeah, absolutely. So I created this cocktail with the Giffard Non-Alcoholic Elderflower Liqueur, which was the one that I was like hoping that you guys would want me to make a cocktail with, because I think that has like so much relevance right now. We just saw like the big summertime like blow up of the Hugo Spritz, and we're kind of like riding along the coattails with that. Like people, the new generation is getting into elderflower, which like me as a dinosaur in this industry now, like I had that time back like when I started bartending and everybody was getting into elderflower. So now we're seeing like the resurgence of that. So I created this cocktail with the thought of making something that reminded me of like cereal milk. I played off of the flavors of the elderflower with the bergamot of the Earl Grey cold brew tea, some lime and grapefruit juice in there. I also infused a whole milk with strawberry and the Monin strawberry rose syrup to give it another little layer of floral elements there. The reason why I chose to do like a tea base is I usually find that is a really good way to like fill a cocktail up, especially a milk punch, when you're doing that with like more flavor without having to put in a bunch of like other sweet things into the cocktail. And then that strawberry milk was something that I was inspired by another friend of mine who made a holiday cocktail with a panettone milk that he infused. So I was like, well, like I want to get another flavor in there. Like I need to do this. And I was also lucky enough that it turned the cocktail pink, which is a big win in my book, I think. A little bit of salt helps to just accentuate all those flavors together. And of course, like this is a milk punch, so you let that sit for about an hour and then strain it through, either if you have a coffee filter, if that's available, or I usually damp like a paper towel realistically and kind of filter it through that. If I don't have coffee filters, I have an espresso machine. I don't ever have coffee filters at my house. To me, this was like, I didn't have to leave my house to build this cocktail, which was great. I had all of these things already accessible at my home. And even though it is like an elevated, simple cocktail, to me, it was still like something that you could make out of your pantry. It's delicious. It's light. It is like a little tart. You can have it by the pool. You can have it anytime. And then I just bottled up a big batch of it and I have it in my fridge right now, actually. It's very, very good.
I feel like your house is the place to hang out at.
No.
Everybody's welcome to come over, please. I've got so much stuff.
I think this cocktail is so clever and beautiful, and like for those of you that are maybe there to learn a bit more of like the tips and the tricks on like how to create non-alcoholic cocktail that have a really beautiful structure. I think you use so many of this like amazing tool. You using tea is amazing because you have the tannin from the tea that again will create that structure. You use salt, the same way that like we all put a pinch of salt in our chocolate cake, and if you don't, please start doing that. That really brings the flavor. Or in our margarita, in a paloma, and all of that really brings the flavor out. And it's exactly the same with non-alcoholic, and even more in non-alcoholic cocktail. And then by using this milk punch, and by using the milk, you're also creating that texture, that mouthfeel that is so beautiful. And again, by using Giffard, and I mean, if you know me, or if you've met me in the past, you know that elderflower is a big thing for me, as I was the global ambassador for beautiful elderflower liqueur for a very long time. And I just think that for me, that Giffard alcohol-free elderflower liqueur is stunning. It's stunning because it's using, a lot of the bright, the natural, the actual flower. There's no artificial flavoring. And so you have this versatile, incredible ingredients that you can put in any of your cocktail, and it will make your cocktail taste better. It will enhance, and it's so versatile that we just can't wait to see what you will create, because again, that range is there to really give you the opportunity to be more creative when it comes to non-alcoholic cocktail, to give you that the robust flavor, but also that mouthfeel with the viscosity, and also that structure with the beautiful acidity of the liqueur that you get in the cocktail.
Yeah. And I do think it's great to make a milk punch, Shannon, because I feel like milk punches are having a huge resurgence right now. I feel like I get on Instagram, there's constantly a milk punch recipe video being served to me through reels or something. So being able to show that you can use these non-alcoholic liqueurs the same way that you would use any of the liqueurs or any of these videos that you're currently seeing for milk punches and these popular cocktails is really important. And it's not going to be, as you were saying and had touched on earlier, it's not going to be like a one-to-one, this is your classic cocktail specs, here's how you use it with this non-alcoholic liqueur. There's still some recipe and development that you have to do, because the non-alcoholic liqueurs are adding a little bit of acidity and brightness that you would usually find from a lime juice or any type of juice acid that you would put into your cocktails. So there is a little bit of some research and development that has to be done to make sure that you're getting the proper specs, which brings us
absolutely. And actually, I am flying to New York in a couple of days to launch this amazing range in New York City with Giffard. And all my cocktail, very often when I create cocktail, I'm inspired by classic cocktail, and I'm inspired by food, and I'm inspired by travel, but the structure will often be a classic cocktail. And so on the menu in a couple of days, we have, a margarita, which is the healthy hedonist margarita with celery and cilantro and elderflower. But all those, even though I have tried the product and all of this, I was saying to Erin, we need to go to the venue earlier. So we need to work out the balance of the recipe, because depending on the non-alcoholic spirits that you're going to use, depending on so many things, you have to adjust. It's not going to be your exact same measurement that you do for your classic cocktail. But I think using classic cocktail as a base to then build on, and to really add those layers of complexity, of flavor, and be creative and make it your own, is a really great way to start making non-alcoholic cocktail. All right. So what does it look like in venue? We've been talking about the category and the importance, and how we really need to make sure that we take in consideration the sober movement, and the moderator, all the mindful drinkers, the one that are not drinking at the beginning of the week because they still want to go out but they have a busy week, the one that are on and off drinking during a night, the one that don't drink alcohol but still love to go out. And so we understand that there is a real need, there is a real but also a real responsibility for us as industry people to make sure that we are inclusive in menus that we put in bars, that we are considerate of every guest. For me, that's very much the definition of hospitality. And I remember that moment where I left, my role as a global ambassador and went on to launching La Maison Wellness. And there was, I'm also a meditation teacher, a yoga teacher. And there was a moment when I was like, maybe I'm just switching industry, and I sat down and I put all the things that I love so much about our industry, the creativity, the community, the looking after people to design and to create the most amazing experience for them. And I wrote all of this down, and at no moment alcohol was on the page of all the things that I was writing. And for me, that's not what define our industry. We want beautiful cocktail and amazing experiences, but that doesn't mean that it has to be boozy, So I think that it's important to take that in consideration and to make sure that there is an option for everyone and that we provide through hospitality to every single guest. Mm-hmm. And if we go on to the next slide, and I love, you mentioned that at the beginning, Shannon, that you are sober, but a lot of your friends aren't sober. And if we look at the number in the US, it's 1 in 7. That's a big number, in a big group of people. That means that at least there will be one person that don't want to consume alcohol, and we talked about the Gen Z being the one that is drinking less and that is really shifting and changing the drinking habits, and that's important. And you might think that 1 in 7 is not a huge number. You're like, well, 1 in 7 is still quite low. But I think that one piece of advice one thing that I would love for you to remember is that one person is very often the person who's going to be the decision maker on where we're going. And that's very simple. If Shannon, Erin, and I were going for dinner and I say, well, actually, I don't eat meat, for example, we're probably not going to go to a steakhouse, because we consider a friend. And so that would not be the best place for me to have dinner. And so we will take that in consideration where we decide where we're going to go for dinner. And it's exactly the same with mindful drinkers. If a group of 7 people are going out and one of this person isn't drinking alcohol, they're going to take in consideration that. And often the person who's moderating is the one who's going to do a bit more research, who's going to look on the internet, who's going to find that venue who has an amazing non-alcoholic offer. And so that makes the mindful drinker the decision maker, which means that not only if you don't have a non-alcoholic offer on your menu, not only you're not looking after the people that are sober, you're not looking after the moderator, you're not looking after the mindful drinker in general, but you're also probably missing a big opportunity with a lot of people that won't come to your venue because you don't have that, even though they might not be ordering it on your menu.
That's a very good point. That is a very, very good point. Because more often than not, you're going to a bar that has better NA drinks than the other one for a night.
Yeah.
All the time.
Absolutely. And if you look at so this is actually just an extract of a study that was done in 10 different markets where people were asked, what do they drink if they're not drinking alcohol when they go out? And the response was soft drink, mostly, water, SADs, coffee, tea, hot drinks, energy drink, full strength beer, etc., etc. This is really important just to see that actually there's a huge opportunity and a huge business opportunity for venues to really upsell and upgrade their menu, because we don't want to serve soft drink, and we definitely don't want to serve tap water. And if you go on to the next slide, actually, I couldn't find this number for the US. This is from the UK. But if this is the number from the UK, I can't even imagine how big the number for the US will be. So in the UK, every year there is more than 800 million that is left on the table from bars and restaurants not upselling from tap water. We're not an industry where we're not an industry of water. We're there to serve beautiful cocktail, and that really shows you the business opportunity for venues to really, really be thoughtful when we create non-alcoholic menus, and to include it and to really put as much passion and craft in creating it, because there is an opportunity. And you may think that people that aren't drinking alcohol will just go for a soft drink or will just go for tap water, but actually they want more. They just settle for that because that's all that was available for way too long. And if we go on the next slide, when I look at and when I do a lot of consultancy on helping venues all around the world to create really solid no and low offer, and there's a lot of things that are to be taken in consideration. And I remember when I did a talk recently at a different conference, one person said to me, "Oh, but I have put something on the menu, but it's not shifting as much as I would like to." And I think there's a lot of things to take in consideration when it's about putting a no and low program. The first is the menu. You want to make sure that you have something on your menu, but you also want to be considerate of where you put it on your menu. And I'm sure that Shannon, you see that all the time. I am tired of seeing a sad non-alcoholic cocktail all the way at the back of the menu, like if I was a kid looking for fries and chicken nuggets. I would love to see more inclusivity in the way that we approach menu, and to make sure that it feels like the same experience, either you're drinking alcohol or not. So really being considerate of what you put on the menu and where you put it on the menu. And what you put on the menu is the selection. I think the selection needs to be way more elaborated than just one option for you to say, I'm ticking the box and it's there. I think that if you have more option, if you have a few non-alcoholic cocktail and you have a few wines, not just one and that's it. It's like if you go to a bar and they only have they have a red, a white, a rosé, you're not going to really trust this venue to be an expert in wine because they only have one option. So why would you? So I think really taking in consideration the selection of what you have, it's so important. And then knowledge, making sure that everyone from the bar team to the floor team to the front of the house to everyone who is involved, to make sure that they have real knowledge in what is the menu, what is mindful drinking, how to talk about the no and low to the guests when they come into the bar. I've been to bars when I say, hey, do you have a non-alcoholic selection? And the bartender will say, yeah, but it's not that good. And the hard work of the people putting this program in place is just ruined by one person who doesn't understand the category, the need, or how to talk to guests about it. So that's really, really important. And then the promotion of it, if we go back to what we were saying about the mindful drinker being the decision maker, it's really important for the venue to make sure that if you have social media, you talk on social media about having a non-alcoholic offer. If you're on Yelp or whatever, platform that you're using, that you say that you have a non-alcoholic offer, that you put that on your menu. If you have a PR team, that they talk about your non-alcoholic offer, and that really you promote that part of the menu with as much pride that you do for the rest of the menu, because it is important for the experience and the journey of the consumer. And I think if you make sure that you really hit all those steps, then your no and low program will be successful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think there's actually a lot of national accounts that are even doing this. I went to a national account this past week where, granted, it was like a Shirley Temple and things like that as far as their non-alcoholic menu goes, but it was showcased right there. There was the full alcoholic cocktails and then non-alcoholic cocktails underneath it. And then on the side, it said tea, sodas, other things available, but they at least showcased these non-alcoholic cocktails in a space that was right up there along with the full strength alcoholic cocktails that we usually see. So I think having the placement, making sure that they're visible, well known with people who are looking online and with the staff is extremely important, Camille.
Yeah. And I remember once going to a bar and saying, do you have a non-alcoholic cocktail? And the waiter said to me, oh, we have a homemade lemonade. And I was like, a homemade lemonade sounds refreshing and delightful, but this is not a non-alcoholic cocktail. This is not a sophisticated non-alcoholic beverage that I'm asking for. Obviously, I didn't say that to the person. I'd say, oh, thank you. No, thank you. But what I'm saying is it's also really important to understand that there is a difference between soft drink and non-alcoholic cocktail, and that there is a little bit of trust that needs to be rebuilt with the guest and the consumer. Because for way too long, we served mocktail that were just mixed juices. And, regardless on where you stand with the word mocktail, I always say the mocktail era is dead. And either you want to keep using that word, that's totally fine. I believe that we can do better as an industry in really celebrating the no and low category and not talking about a mock of a cocktail, which already is labeling the experience of the guest. But regardless, if you want to keep using that word, which is totally fine because you think that like it's a safe place where people really understand that it's non-alc, fine. But what I'm saying is we can do better than just mixed juices. And when we see, amazing product like the Giffard alcohol-free range coming into this amazing no and low category, we know that now we have zero excuses to serve terrible mixed juices, sugary, no like layers of complexity or nothing sophisticated to our guests. Like we have everything in our hands to be able to make delicious, amazing alcohol-free cocktail like the one that Shannon created and shared with you. We have everything to make it. So now we just need to be creative and to learn more about the category.
Yeah. And speaking of that, here is where Giffard non-alcoholic cocktails are going to be available. So we actually are available in the United States now through Boisson. So you can order online on their website. If you just have to have those non-alcoholic liqueurs as soon as possible. I do believe they're fulfilling to almost all of the states. So you can scan the QR code to order the Giffard non-alcoholic liqueur line today. We will have distribution rollout in the states that you see here in dark blue. Those are coming soon. So all of our major distribution states.
Awesome.
And then here's the area if you wanted to order still, just scan that QR code that says order here. And then for more info, you can scan this and it will take you to the Back Bar Project site where Giffard USA's products will be there. And you'll see non-alcoholic liqueurs front and center because we're very excited that they are now here. But I think we're ready for questions now too.
Yeah,
Right?
Yes.
some
Awesome.
great questions.
Yeah, let's see if we can't get some popping up over here.
Yeah, Joshua had a great question.
Yeah, let's see. Umar, can we see Josh Seberg's question in the video chat? There we go. Do you think it's better to include NA options as parallels to a full strength cocktail, listing a margarita variation with an NA option included in the description, for example?
Yeah.
You're saying no?
No, I'm saying yes.
Oh, you're saying yes. I was like,
you're saying no, I'm saying yes. I'm a big fan of that. And actually, I had the opportunity to create some menus for some amazing venues around the world. And I get really excited when venues are open to do what I call mirror menu. So the entire menu is available, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. And I would love for this to be the goal in the future. Everything to have an option. And actually, I was just in the UK working with an amazing group, Hakkasan, and that's what they're doing. They're changing all around the world, all their venues to have every single cocktail with an option for alcoholic and non-alcoholic. And it's not always possible, and it's not always what you want to go for. But I think that for me is having a menu and even just like an asterisk that say all those cocktails are available alcohol free if you wish to. I think that's a great way to do it and an amazing way. And I think that the role of like the bartender or the floor staff to really help the guests to navigate how to understand the menu has a big role in that. And often I even say, if you want to keep having a section that is just non-alc, so people can just flick straight to the non-alc, but still have it into the cocktail, like, as we were saying, we're really shaping this new category and we are transitioning. And maybe there's words that we still need to use, mocktail for a little bit, if we think that's helpful. Maybe there's ways of doing it, including it in the menu and still having a non-alc selection so people can see all the options that are non-alcoholic. I think there's a transition phase on how we do things, but I really want to see more menus where there is alcohol-free option for those cocktails rather than an entire delicious crafted beautifully cocktail menu and one sad option for non-alc at the bottom.
I just to like piggyback off of what you were saying, Camille, is I do think that like it is important if you're going to offer a NA version of a full strength cocktail to still have that cocktail listed out in its full entirety of ingredients. Because the non-alc category is so new, there are a lot of things that don't often get put onto like labelings, as far as like sometimes people use things like capsaicin or different herbs that other people are like allergic to. So to treat this category with care and treat your guests with care at the same time, to make sure that everybody knows what is going into it. Also, a lot of NA spirits are de-alkalized or made with still trace amounts of alcohol. And I think that's also important to mark on a menu as well, because there are so many different people out there who quit drinking for many, many different reasons, as we know. And one of those reasons, like some people just don't want anything. So again, just to like be mindful when you're doing like menu creation, to be as informative as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is also like, non-alcoholic bitters that are available now. Like there's an amazing company called All the Bitters that you can check out. And so there is ingredients, again, we're talking about like Giffard alcohol-free range. So now you have liqueurs that you can use in your cocktail for options. So I think that like making sure that like all the ingredients, as you were saying, are shared, but also having a conversation with the guest to understand, because for someone who's, like, 0.5, which is the requirement to be non-alc, that's what you will get in an orange juice, in kombucha, in sourdough bread, in all the sourdough that we were baking, during lockdown, there was traces, because traces of alcohol is part of a fermentation process. So I think it's really understanding the guest and making sure that like you're as clear as possible on your menu so they feel comfortable.
Absolutely. All right, we got another comment from Michael Moberly here. Yeah, what are some of the pitfalls that could slow down this amazing category growth, and how can we avoid them as an industry?
That's a great question, Michael. I think that like there's a lot of education that needs to be done. And I think the category is growing so fast and it's so exciting. And we see so much of like the potential of the category, that there's some product that are entering the category that aren't great. Let's be honest, they're not that fantastic, And so I think that like if you look at like the alcohol spirits industry, you see the premium product and then the rest of the category. Like there's a bit more of an understanding of what's really good and what's probably not what you want to put on your menu. And I think that like I would love to see more industry professional, like all of us on this talk today, and all of you watching this talk today, to really get involved in your role as an educator and in your role as guiding the guests to understand. In the UK, we see a lot of because this is quite unusual. This movement in this category really started from the consumer, when often the bartenders, we're the one that kind of like guide a bit what's happening. You talk about the boom of the bourbon. We've seen the Negroni going all around the world. All those cocktails and those spirits that are very much the bartender's palate. But for the mindful drinking movement, it was a pull from the consumer. The consumer wanted to change their drinking habit. But I think now we have an amazing opportunity as industry professional to really help it to take it to the next level by educating and by really creating menus that are made with the best of the product that are available. Those complex, amazing cocktails that are made with as much love and craft that we do for the rest.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think you hit the nail right on the head for that. It is like up to us though to like, keep getting this category more eyes on it all the time. But yeah, like it's wonderful to watch from the inside. I think we have time for one more question. We had an earlier question from Josh from Facebook. There it is. Is there any data or insight to what guests are willing to pay for no-low ABV drinks compared to foolproof drinks on the menu? I found a mental hurdle in pricing NA drinks along the same margin lines as I do foolproof drinks. I think that this is something that like we all kind of struggle with, especially like those of us who have been bar managers before, beverage directors, when we start pricing things out. And that way of thinking, I think, comes from like people, you're thinking that you have to make people understand why they're paying a premium price with something that they're not getting drunk off of. Because like ultimately when you go out to a bar, like the end goal is to like, for a lot of younger folks, is to like get drunk or have a feeling at the end. And when you have a product that doesn't necessarily give you that like end result, you're like, well, what are they really paying for? But just personally, as somebody who goes out in this industry as a consumer, having a non-alcoholic drink on the menu, like I would pay for that. If it looks like it sounds like it's constructed as thoughtfully as a regular craft cocktail on your menu, like I will absolutely pay for that. And not only am I going to buy one of them, I will probably buy 2 of them or 3, because the fact that you even have it listed on your menu validates my existence in your space. So that makes me come back for more or try another one. And like, I am going out, it doesn't mean that I don't have money. Like, I just want to make sure that my money is going into the pockets of people who care and understand for me. Absolutely. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Josh, this is a great question. And I feel like this is a seminar on its own. You know, we could talk about it for so long. There is so much to unpack on that. And I absolutely agree with you, Shannon. If we look at the study, yes, there is study and insight that are actually showing that people are willing to pay the exact same price for a non-alcoholic cocktail, and especially younger generation. So especially Gen Z, which is the one that like we want to connect with. You know, they are the consumer, they are the one coming into your bar. I always say that, again, we are in a transition phase, you know, and I think that by putting non-alcoholic cocktail cheaper than alcoholic cocktail, you're already labeling the experience for the guest. You're already saying that it's less value, that is less goods. You're already layering something onto it. You know, I think there was a study that shows in a restaurant, there was like an expensive steak, like, you know, middle price and the low price, and no one was ordering the low price cuts because everyone said that it was like the not really good one. So I think that like pricing do put you know, label the quality of what you expect. And I think that the people that aren't willing to pay the price for a sophisticated cocktail, but maybe they're not your guest. Maybe you don't want them to order at your bar. And it's, you know, it's a bit harsh to say, but it's the truth. You want people that really love cocktail, understand cocktail, want to grow it. That being said, I do think that there is a transition phase, and I do think that there is trust that needs to be rebuilt with the consumer. Because as I was saying earlier, we served non-alcoholic mocktail that were just mixed juices, nothing complex, nothing sophisticated, nothing crafted about it for too long. And so I understand the consumer don't want to pay for that. You know, the same way that, as I was sharing earlier on, when I went to that restaurant and I asked for a non-alcoholic cocktail and the answer was, we have a homemade lemonade, I wouldn't want to pay the same price for a homemade lemonade that I do for a sophisticated non-alcoholic cocktail. So I think that like we have to be really clear and really specific in how we do it. And in some venues that I consulted with, and great way to do it was actually to look at the cost of the cocktail and to put your margin on that and to price it at that point. Because if you look at like the ingredients that we're using, either the non-alcoholic spirits, the alcohol-free liqueur, all of that, those are ingredients that cost money, and making non-alcoholic cocktail in the right way isn't cheap, you know, the same way that making cocktail isn't cheap. And so I think that if you look at like the cost of like what goes into your cocktail and then add your margin on that and price it at that point, you will feel more comfortable in justifying to your guests. And I do think that like people don't go in venues just to get drunk. You know, look at how when we were all in lockdown and we're all at home and we had booze at home, what we were missing was, you know, going out, catching up with our friend, going to venues that we love because we love the design, the decor, we love the music, we love the lighting, we love the ambiance. That's what we miss. We are social creators. We want to get together and have fun and have drinks together. It's not just about, you know, getting drunk and getting that buzz. It's about the social experience that like we enjoying. And so I think that like non-alcoholic cocktail should be priced in the right way, because otherwise we're damaging the category and the experience for the consumer. But there might be a transition phase for that.
Absolutely.
It's a very long answer.
No, but you're right. That could be like a whole dissertation in and of itself of like, you know, the experience of NA drinking outside.
Part 2.
That'll be next time when we and Camille just have our own show about where we just go back and forth about, wow, it's so crazy out here for NA drinks. But with that, I think that was our last question. So I'm going to go ahead and close us out here. Firstly, I'd like to thank Camille and Aaron of Les Maisons Wellness and also of Giffard Non-Alcoholic Liqueurs. And also don't forget to submit your quiz at lushlifeproductions.com/Giffard before January 24th for a chance to win. And keep an eye out for No Proof Strong Start, the companion PDF of this education, which will be coming out later this month, and it will be designed by Kassira Hill, and it features a boatload of spirit-free recipes created by yours truly. I enjoy making every single one of those, so make sure you look out for those. You can get your copy by signing up for our newsletter at lushlifeproductions.com/newsletter. Surprise! If you enjoyed this class, please hit the like or love button and show some love in the comments. If you want to see more Portland Cocktail Week classes like this one, follow Portland Cocktail Week on Facebook or on YouTube, which we'll put that up there as well. Both of those are /PDXCW, if you could have assumed. We're also at PDXCW and at Lush Life Productions on Instagram. You can find out what's coming up next there. You can find Camille on Instagram at Mindfully Cammy, and you can find me at ShannonTheCity _. Please hit us up if you want to talk no proof cocktails or you want to talk about sobriety. My DMs are open, and I love to just go back and forth with you on whatever it is that you want to talk about the category. So I'll see everyone back here next Monday, January 22nd, for Going Beyond Alcohol with our friends over at 3 Spirit. Until then, stay hydrated.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining.